Hey guys, and welcome back. In today's video, I will be showing you how I made this beautiful silky cowl neck dress. And I'm going to be 100% honest, I kept on thinking I was going to mess this up, but to my surprise, I think it turned out great. This would be a perfect dress for Valentine's or really any semi-formal event, so if you'd like to see how I made it, keep on watching. Let's start off with the patterns. We have the front, the back, and the back facing. The measurements needed are above the bust line, the waistline, the widest part of your hips, and the desired length, and the length in between all of those points. All of the measurements will be divided by 4, and we will add 10 centimeters to the top above bust measurement to create the cowl neckline. And above that point, we will have our mirrored edge to the point where it will be mirrored the top point all the way to the bust line to create the top facing for the cowl neckline. And I flared out the bottom of the skirt to make it an A-line shape. And here I will be showing you all of the pattern pieces. Here is how I left the bottom of the front skirt piece. The back skirt piece with the back facing. And as I'm demonstrating, all of the patterns will be cut on the diagonal bias of the fabric. And I started off by sewing a zigzag stitch around the edges of the back facing and the top edges of the dress and the back piece using a knit foot because I don't have a walking foot to create a faux serged edge. And if you guys notice, I do end up having to switch machines because my zigzag stitch wasn't working on this one right. It kept on sewing a zigzag and then a straight stitch, so yeah, just in case you guys notice the change. Once that's done, I pinned and sewed a straight stitch along the sides, connecting the front and the back pieces together. And if your fabric is very delicate, do not backstitch the fabric. Tie off the ends with a double knot. And now onto the straps. I cut out 1 inch wide pieces of fabric and join them together diagonally with a straight stitch. Then I sewed down the length of the straps with a straight stitch. I then cut off the excess fabric so that I can flip the straps right side out with a loop turner that I finally figured out how to use. And I didn't show me ironing the edge of the cowl, but I did iron it, and we're going to be taking the straps and pinning them in the corners and between our mirrored facing part and the top edge of the dress. And here it is all pinned together, and we are going to sew it down with a straight stitch. So I'm sewing the kind of armpit curve at this point, and I'm leaving the side bit for later on. But you could sew it all in one go. I just broke it up into 2 parts. I broke it up into 2 parts so that I could connect the side of that facing to the back facing, but mine didn't line up, so I sewed it separately. And I went right next to the straight stitch with a zigzag stitch to prevent it from fraying. This creates a faux serged edge like we did with the facing piece. And I am taking an extra strap and making little loops out of it because I decided I wanted back loops. So I'm taking the back loops and pinning them in between the back facing with the loops pointing down so that they poke out through the facing once flipped over. And make sure to only pin going in one direction so you don't accidentally snag any of your fabric, because silk and/or satin is super delicate. And now I'm going to take it to my machine and sew this down with a straight stitch. And here I'm trying to show you the little loops I made to loop the straps through later on. And even though I feel like this is self-explanatory, I'm going to be sewing that straight stitch, making sure that none of the zigzag stitch that I did to stop the fraying show on the outside. So just sewing right next to it. And once that's done, I'm going to be flipping the seam allowance towards the facing and understitching, again with a straight stitch. And we're doing a straight stitch, with the seam allowance facing the facing so that it doesn't flip through on the dress when we're wearing it. And I'm going to be doing something else to also prevent that, since my top facing and this back facing don't line up. But before I show you that, I'm going to be sewing that straight stitch along underneath the armpit curve on the top part of our dress, closing it off, because like I said, I was going to attach it to the back facing, but they didn't connect. And once again, I'm going to be doing a zigzag stitch after that to prevent fraying. And to further hide the back facing, I'm taking the facing itself and attaching it to the seam allowance of the rest of the skirt and sewing it together. It honestly holds up really well because there's no way it can flip out of the skirt, and I ended up doing this because it didn't attach to the top one and it worked out really well. So hopefully it works out for you guys. Lastly, I rolled up the hem twice, pinned it down, and sewed it with a straight stitch. And that finishes off our dress. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And as always, if you end up making it, please hashtag OnlybyOcé so I can see it. Please subscribe if you haven't, and like this video, and stay tuned for next time. Hope you have a great day. Bye.